Here with a knife video for you, and the Benchmade Contego is a fantastic blade. Everything I know about it, everything I've seen about it says that this thing is, an 8 or a 9 out of 10. But what if I told you that you could actually get one that was even better than it already is? That even takes the greatness of the Contego, which I love, and step it up a notch. And that's the knife that I have for you today. This is the Benchmade Contego in blue black G10 and M390 blade steel. This is a Knifeworks exclusive for 2014. And so what you have here is a knife that's already awesome. There's no need to comment that the Benchmade Contego is a fantastic blade. It's very popular for them. Everybody I've seen do a review of it simply loves it, and me too. It's been on my list of knives to get for a while, and when I saw this one, I knew it was perfect, because the only things that I wasn't crazy about on the Contego were the fact that the steel, which was CPM M4, was not a full stainless steel, meaning it had to have a coating on it to protect it, and two, the glass breaker. I'm not a big fan of glass breakers on knives for a number of reasons that I'm not going to spend a lot of time on. Primarily as an EDC knife, I don't think it's necessary. Now maybe if you're an EMT or something like that and you just have to have one, great, more power to you. Anyway, then I saw this and I knew this was the perfect Contego, one that definitely had to go in my collection, because of the exclusivity of it, because of the special features, the blue black G10, the upgraded steel, because of the limitedness of the offer just for this year. I just was like, yep, that is ideal. So there's a good look at the knife. And by way of introduction, you kind of already know what's cool about it. One more thing, and this is of course true of the standard issue as well. It is a Warren Osborne design. You can see his maker's mark there. And I can tell you right now that when I go through Benchmade's calendar or catalog and start picking out the Benchmades that I like, guess what? Like 9 out of 10 are Warren Osborne designs. I'm very drawn to his design philosophy and love the knives that he's put together, and this one is definitely no exception. Great ergonomics. I love the blade shape. I love the handle size, shape, everything like that. And I'll get into some of those things in specifics as we go through the rest of the video, which why don't we go ahead and start doing that now. So as usual, I'm going to start from the tip of the knife and work my way down. And so we're talking about the blade first. Oh wait, before I do that, let's back up a second and I'll give you the specs on this knife. This knife is 5 1/4 inches closed, 9 1/4 inches open. That leaves a 4-inch blade. It weighs in at 5.8 ounces. Now that's on my scale. The website lists it at, at least the standard Contego at 5.92 ounces, which is a little bit heavier. That could be because of the fact that this is a special edition, or it could be just variation in scales, or because they just give a standard spec sheet that doesn't necessarily reflect what's coming out of the factory. So 5.8 ounces, and that is very comfortable. For a knife this size, you cannot complain about 6 ounces at all, and this is coming in under 6 ounces. Now you should also know that this dimension is just over 1/2 inch. I mean, just over 1/2 inch. And that when it's closed, the profile is actually fairly narrow, even though this is a large knife. This is about the narrowest large knife that I own. All of my other longer, 9-inch or more knives that I have are considerably thicker than this. Whether you talk about the Manix 2XL, the Cold Steel Recon 1, or any of those, they're all thicker in pocket than this one. So that's pretty much what you need to know about the specs. Now let's go back to what I was saying about the blade. So 4 inches of M390 steel. M390, according to the manufacturer, is excellent at edge retention, at toughness, and at rust resistance, which are essentially the things that we want out of a blade. Benchmade hardens this to 60 to 62 Rockwell hardness, and my experience with this blade have been all positive. The only thing that you should know is because of just the sheer size of this knife, I always do a test with my knives. I do one slice test where I try to chop into a cardboard box this way, and I do one stabbing test into a number of layers of cardboard. And both of those tests, it didn't perform quite as well as, say, the Manix 2 XL or the Para 2, because the blade is just thicker. Now, it did do really, really well on the slice part. I would say it was almost equal, but on the just straight stabbing exercise, I use a box that's just set down so that whatever force I can generate just by momentum is the only force. There's nothing pushing back on the box toward me, and I only got into about here. Now, doing that same test with the Para 2 literally buried that knife right up to the hilt. So because of the blade size, there are some changes. Now, on the other hand, when I was doing some chopping, some branches, and trimming off some trees in my backyard, this knife did much better than either of those two blades that I mentioned, because it's got a little bit more weight in the blade especially. Now, the blade shape, of course, is a reverse Tonto blade, and that gives you the strength of the Tonto blade that we like to have, but you also get a belly. So that means that in addition to most of your utility tasks, I've mentioned over and over again, Tonto knives are fantastic for utility purposes. In addition to that, and this one loses a little bit of that because it doesn't have that secondary tip. However, it does have a belly. So that means it's going to kill any Tonto blade when it comes to any kind of food preparation, any kind of skinning, anything where you need that curvature in the blade. And of course, slicing will be the same. So the reverse Tonto blade shape is a marriage of two ideas. You want the strength and durability all the way up to the tip that comes from a Tonto blade, and then you also get the belly that comes from a regular, drop point or clip point or whatever. This is a flat grind, so we'd call it probably a high flat grind. I'll let you take a look at it. You can see the flat grind comes right up to well past the midpoint of the blade, and then there is the swedge on top. Great spot for your thumb when you choke up, and you can actually, if you're careful, get away with choking up even further on this blade, and that works very nicely for food preparation or for like fine whittling. If you're making a fire stick or something like that, works really well. I'm a big fan of this blade shape. It did everything well. As I said, there were some limitations where a thinner profile blade does beat it by just a little bit, but you got to remember, with that kind of blade, you're sacrificing some toughness. So this blade style is very, very functional and includes a high degree. Well, you can see how the thickness of that blade is carried right out to the tip, and so that makes it a very strong blade, one where you're very, very unlikely to break the tip. Now, I'm going to say one thing at this point, and that is, if you carry a knife, especially if it's a nice knife, get yourself something like this. I think this one is called a doohickey. All it is a little prying tool that goes on your keychain, so that you're not using your knife to try and spin screws or to pry the staples out or anything like that. Okay, blade shape, excellent, total win. I love the length. I love the usability and the toughness of this blade. It functioned very well in lots of things, and I cut meat with it, I cut fruit and vegetables with it, I cut cardboard, both corrugated and non-corrugated, I cut paper, I cut tree branches, I cut construction type wood, 2x4 material, and it just dealt with all of it very, very effectively. So that's my discussion of the blade. The blade definitely gets 2 thumbs up as far as I'm concerned. Just need to know that it's built for toughness more so than being a thin, narrow slicer. Now, moving into the handle. The handle is doing a couple of things different. One of those things is it's got jimping in a whole bunch of places, and when you grab onto the handle, you just lock right in. Rather than a deep finger choil here, it sort of has these dual cutouts, and they do function very, very well. And the jimping is just perfectly designed so that it locks into all of those finger placements. Now, the G10 on this is something very different. I don't know, if Benchmade uses this on their other G10 knives, or if it's just the Contego and the Rift, or I don't know. I can't speak to that. Maybe someone who owns a number of Benchmades could comment. But this G10 feels very different than, say, a Spyderco G10 or Cold Steel or G10. It's, instead of you getting its grippiness from a harsh abrasive surface, it actually has a little bit of softness to it, so that when you grab onto this knife, you can feel the rubber give just a little bit under your fingers and just grip in really, really well. And so that's definitely a win. It also makes it so that, I could see these ridges that are cut in being rather sharp, but because there's a bit of softness there, it turns out to be just fine. So ergonomics on this handle are fantastic. Let's talk about this axis lock and about deployment. First, let me just demonstrate. If I hold the knife here and work the lock, this blade just drops. And of course, that works just as well from the top position to close the knife completely. So this knife, look at that, is extremely smooth. And I'm not the only one who thinks so. I had the knife at the office, and a friend came in and said, "Oh, can I see the knife?" Sure. He held it, and the minute he opened the blade, he was like, "I cannot believe how smooth that is." And it is extremely smooth. I'm going to say that this is the smoothest, cleanest knife that is in my collection at this point. It's just perfect. Maybe even better, not better, but different than the KBS knives like the Fossil. It's not better, I'm going to say, but it just feels different. Very, very, very nice. The axis lock, of course, is great. And I'm going to say, this knife is one of those knives that is addictive for flipping. You just are drawn to opening and closing it, and I'm doing that on purpose. I know it's getting a little annoying, but I'm just demonstrating how smooth that knife is and how badly it just calls you out to hold on to it and open it and close it while you're reading a book or doing something on the computer, whatever the case may be. Fully lined in stainless steel. There is a backspacer, so it's only partial open construction. There is a stainless steel backspacer here, which is going to add a little bit to the weight. You can see, let's see, oh yeah, you can see in. You can see that those are milled out liners, and I think that's everything about the pocket, about the handle that you'd want to know, except for the pocket clip. And this pocket clip is great. A big improvement over Benchmade's standard pocket clip. It rides, of course, lower. You can see that it's going to sit right about there. And the placement and the retention on it are ideal. It comes in and out of the pocket very easily, although it's tight enough that it's not going to fall out when you don't want it to. The other nice thing about this knife is the color variation and the satin finish make this knife a little more public friendly. A typical Benchmade Contego, you pull that thing out and it looks like you're ready to go to war. This just looks like you're carrying a pocket knife. And I, for one, appreciate that. Even the blue color sort of adds to that element of the knife, that it's just very public friendly. I'll try to give you a good look at this. The finish is kind of a satin finish, but it seems like maybe there's a little bit of a bead blast or something very, very slight that you can probably, I think you can probably pick it up on the camera right there. Now to carry on, the axis lock on this, and this is more of a comment on the axis lock in general. As I was cutting with it a bunch the last few days, it developed a little bit of blade play. And what happened was there on the back of the blade tang, where the lock, there we go, where the bolt will slide in that locks it up, there was some dirt and grime and junk in there, and that was interfering with how well that, so you can see as you actuate it, like there you go, there's the lock position. What was happening is that little bolt couldn't get into position all the way, and it was giving me a little bit of up and down blade play. And you may experience that on other axis locks as well. Now on the cheaper axis locks, Sometimes that's because the tolerances aren't good enough and the bar is sitting in there crooked. I think I've talked about that in a different video. Not so much with this one, but I did get some dirt in there, and when I cleaned that out, the problem went away. So just be aware of that if you have access lock knives, that something interfering with the interface between the blade tang and the locking bolt there will cause a little bit of blade play on you. I'm getting long, so why don't I wrap this up by saying that my overall impression of this knife is I'm totally infatuated with it. It's big, it's smooth, it has all the things that I love in a knife. You know, super comfortable handle, nice big useful blade, carries really comfortably in your pocket. Just all the things that I want a knife to do, this does very well. I think anyone who is interested in the Contego would do well to at least consider this variation. It's only a little more expensive, and you know, you're getting a whole lot. You're getting, for almost just enough reason to buy it for me was just the ability to have a satin finish instead of have that Cerakote. I know this is totally subjective, but I just didn't like the look of it in the gray or the black all that much, other than the overall look of it I liked. And so when I saw this one, I was like, that is perfect. That totally puts the Contego over the top for me. And so if that's your take as well, then M390 is a great steel choice for you. And if you're just thinking of a Contego in general, you need to know they're very comfortable, very ergonomic, tough as nails. They're going to serve you extremely well. So as far as I'm concerned, this is a great, literally nearly a perfect knife for everyday carry. Suits a perfect place in my collection because of the fact that you've got a slight color variation, it's a little exclusive, all of those things that a collector is interested in. It definitely has all of those, and so just a great all-around blade. If you're even somewhat interested, don't hesitate. You are not going to be disappointed by the Benchmade Contego, especially not the Knifeworks exclusive in blue black G10 and the M390 steel. Talk to you later. I hope you enjoyed the video.